Hello and welcome to this final episode of Finastra's four-part series. I'm Hannah Wallace, and with me now to discuss cross-border payments is Tim Forster, Strategic Partnerships at Finastra, and Dawei Wang, Head of Strategic Partnerships at Thunes. Hello to the both of you. Thank you very much for taking the time to speak with us.
Thanks for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
Yep, nice to see you, Hannah.
It's great to be speaking with you today, and on a topic that's really front of mind for a lot of bank leaders and other financial institutions. And although it is a global issue, I'm interested to hear what markets and regions are in focus at the moment. Tim, we'll come to you first.
Yeah, it's a really interesting question to start with because it shows the complexity of the challenges that we're facing. I would start with Europe and the US. I think that they, from a technology point of view, are in a different phase to other areas of the world. They've been inundated with a number of projects, particularly in the payments landscape, which have really drawn all of their resources up, and they haven't had the capacity, I think, to address cross-border payment issues. When you look at regions like the Middle East, Asia Pacific, Caribbean, you're seeing a different set of challenges there. For me, that's really been very interesting to us. That's a challenge the existing corporate banking relationships they have and the correspondent banking relationships. Mm-hmm.
Wonderful. And Dawei, what would you like to add to that?
Yeah, I think I concur with Tim. I think the whole construct of corresponding banking, it's a lot more mature in Europe and North America. In regions like Asia, Middle East, Africa, LATAM, there's a lot of challenges when it comes to building a banking relationship out of your home markets. And I think because of that, we actually see a lot of opportunities for new alternative payment rails in those regions to help them to connect to the rest of the world for themselves or for their customers as well. But having said that, I think there's still also pockets of opportunities in Europe and North America as well, especially when it comes to managing payment flows in and out of emerging markets where the traditional setup is sometimes not adequate to support those payment flows. So in short, I think there's opportunities across the world and largely sitting in emerging markets, but pockets in developed markets as well.
And innovation is really key here, isn't it? And it plays a number of roles, one of which is making those activities accessible to all. So Dawei, talk us through the democratization of cross-border payments and the role alternative payment rails plays in encouraging financial inclusion, but also helping companies reach their ESG goals.
Yeah, sure. I think, first of all, on a global level, many different markets have approached their financial services infrastructure very differently. So in North America, Europe, it's very much the traditional bank-to-bank network, bank account. Everyone has a bank account, and as such, or the money movement mechanism, or the core money movement mechanism is through those bank accounts. And then you have Asia, and China is probably the most significant example where everything runs through a QR code network through the likes of Alipay and WeChat Pay. And then you have pockets of Asia, Middle East and Africa, LATAM as well, where a lot of the core financial services are now being provided by mobile telecom operators. And so they operate digital wallets or mobile wallets to individuals who then use this for their day-to-day banking and money movement activities. So then you really got to cater for this entire population. And so the latter I talked about in terms of the mobile wallets, the digital wallets, there are 3.5 billion users of those type of wallets globally, and who very much enjoy using those wallets over bank accounts as well, especially in markets like China and Kenya. Everyone has a bank account, but they still prefer to use their mobile wallets. So that the first level of innovation is really about how we can tap into that 3.5 billion users globally. And if we were to use the traditional corresponding banking relationship, you almost exclude yourself and also those individual businesses who are on those wallets as well. So I think that's the first level of innovation, to be able to truly create that interoperability between the traditional banking accounts infrastructure to the wallets infrastructure. I think that's the first piece. And then the second piece is the fundamental cost structure of traditional corresponding banking network, if you like. It's extremely heavy in terms of operational efforts, regulatory effort. To build a corresponding relationship, you need to spend time on regulatory matters, technical matters, commercial matters, and so on. Then you've got to do this across 200 countries worldwide. And so it's a lot of time and resources need to be spent, and that's why there are only 2-3 banks globally who have managed to achieve that. So in order to find a better way to do this, you've got to find a better ways to connect to those wallets accounts globally and to include everyone within the population globally.
It's such an exciting space, and some good advice weaved into that response as well. And Tim, what are your thoughts on that, and what does that mean for Finastra?
Well, you can see why we collaborate with somebody like Thunes. Their deep domain knowledge, their enthusiasm, their goals align with us. We're trying to do the same thing. We're applying, the same principles to solve the same challenges. I think it's really interesting when you look at the numbers there. You're talking about billions of people having access to the banking network. Open banking is a key part of that, and that's a key part of what Finastra is delivering as well. I think it's key for us to work with banks to deliver something that changes the world for a better place. We include people rather than exclude them. And it's being excluded not by design, but because of legacy systems. And this is where change comes in. We're seeing new technology bringing better solutions that will improve people's lives.
That's wonderful. Thank you very much for sharing your insights on the partnership as well. And I know you've touched on this a little bit already, Dawei, but perhaps you could expand on why traditional payment rails are perhaps not the best option for certain countries or regions, and some of those business benefits going forward as well for alternative payment rails.
Yeah, sure. So I think to simply put, I think that the first factor is that if you rely purely on traditional rails, you miss out on half of the opportunities in the world, right? So there's 3.5 billion of wallet users globally, of which large portion of that doesn't have access to bank accounts. So if you rely on traditional rails, you can't do business with those or provide payment facilitation to the individuals. So that's the key business benefit. Just tap into a much bigger market than what you are able to with the traditional payment rails. And then the second element is it's just overall efficiency of leveraging some of those new alternative rails like Thunes, where we can transfer funds in a more real-time manner. We can transfer funds in a more economical manner, and again, this is down to just spending years and years focusing on solving this problem in the most efficient manner. So that in turn will also allow institutions to focus on their core activities, user acquisitions, and so on.
Thank you very much. And Tim, what does that mean for Finastra then?
It's an interesting one because it's often portrayed as being a competition between existing rails and new rails, and I don't think I would look at it like that. I don't think Finastra looks at it like that. What we're saying is we've had so much change in technology, and it's rapidly changing and continuing to do so. So what we're looking at is providing the solution that's appropriate for the market demand. As Dawei was saying, you think about the infrastructure for banks. It's been in place for a long time now and is targeted quite often at larger payment amounts, smaller number of transactions, where actually what's happening is we're seeing a change in that, which is driven by the customers. Customers want faster solutions, they want faster payments, more certainty. So it's leading to a boom in the growth in payment volumes, but actually the ticket size is diminishing as well. So your infrastructure doesn't necessarily match what the market has. And this is where you can bring in these new solutions. This is where partnerships come along. We don't change everything, we give you another solution that you can bolt on to what's already there.
That's really interesting. So I'm interested to hear, what about the US and Europe? Are they excluded from this trend?
No, not at all. I just think that you can slice and dice countries and banks and markets in many different ways. But I think particularly at the moment, the part that draws, say, the US and Europe together is this an overbearing burden in delivering new technology. They've had to respond to regulatory changes. These are enormous infrastructure changes for them, and they haven't had the capacity in most cases to address that. And that's talking about the sort of tier 1 banks. When we talk about tier 2s and 3s, they don't have the resources available as well. So in matching ourselves to our customers, we're helping now by bringing pre-integrated solutions to them where we've thought not just about the next step, but we're trying to bring partners who can take you 2 steps down the line, pre-integrate for payments, pre-integrate for fraud, and give you a fuller, more complete journey.
Well, thank you very much for that. And Dawei, taking all of that into account then, what do you think this space holds going forward then?
Yeah, sure. I think even though we've been doing this for many years, and we think we are probably by far the biggest cross-border payments infrastructure out there in the market, but we're conscious that there's still a lot of work to be done to truly connect the world globally and able to facilitate all payment flows of different size, nature, and shape. And so I think in the immediate to medium term, it's really about doubling down to make sure that we have a robust infrastructure that connect to every corner of the world, to every individuals and to every businesses. So for anyone who want to do business or transact globally, there's a solution for everyone.
Wonderful. Well, watch this space, it's safe to say, and really interesting to hear more about your partnership together, and looking forward to reflecting on those insights further down the line. But for now, we'll leave it there. Tim, Dawei, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thanks for having me.